bushy. It never gets long per se. Just gets sort of this big bush on top of my head.
Come in, Francesca.
I just have a visitor coming through the house, so.
Oh. Animal or mineral or human?
Sister,
Oh, okay.
one of 4 sisters.
Fun.
Paul, your shirt kind of matches your rug now too.
You know, I picked it out on my own. Usually I have somebody else pick my clothes out because I don't see the colors.
In the old
Hi.
days. Hello.
Hi,
Hi,
Estelle.
Sal.
Hi, you guys. So when you said if somebody will check your clothes out because you
Yeah.
don't see colors, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, my partner, she loves ties. So she picks the tie, shirt, jacket, you know.
So is that
All right.
hereditary color blindness, Paul?
Oh, yeah, I think it's, you know, some people say it comes from your mother, but my father certainly was color deficient, blind. I don't know, deficient, I guess.
Deficient.
You know, my brothers all me and all my brothers have an issue with colors.
What colors? Specifically, what colors? I'm curious.
Well, you know, the base color is red, green, and what happens is, I'm not sure which one is stronger on me, but if I look at something like purple and navy blue, really can't tell. And I think it's the red component, you know, because green and brown, I have the same, I can't see those either very well.
I was at the eye doctor this morning and they gave me a color blindness test, which I think wasn't the old sort of wives' tale was that it was only men.
Yeah, the theory, yeah.
Well,
the theory is it's about 20% men and less than 5 women.
Oh, okay. So anyways, they showed one thing and I could not get the number out of it. And I thought maybe I was colorblind, but he said only colorblind people could see a number in there. And I went, yay.
Really? What was it? Were they square pictures or round?
Round.
You know, the round one, I believe, is the ancient one that I always took. And then somewhere in the 70s, they came out with like a rounded TV screen kind of, you know, rounded corners, small rectangle, rounded corners. And because I used to practice memorizing them so I could
Okay,
cheat.
guys.
Yeah.
We're ready?
I love the chat, and this is the beauty of Zoom. Everybody gets to look in on us as we check in with each other, and that's beautiful. Thank you so much. But I'm looking at the clock here, and we're actually a little past 4, so I'm gonna do my duty and remind us that you are now joining the Humboldt County Association of Governments meeting of September 17th. In accordance with Executive Order N29-20, the Hcog meetings will be held virtually until further notice. So when Hcog board announces an agenda item that you wish to comment on, call the conference line and turn off your TV or live stream. Please call 669-900-6833. Enter the meeting ID 846-1827-5132 and press *9. And this will raise your hand. You will continue to hear the meeting while you're on the call. But when it's time for public comment on the item and you wish to speak, we will unmute your phone. You'll hear a prompt that will indicate that your phone has been unmuted. And I believe at this point, with the new Zoom protocols, you may have to press *6 at that point to speak. So if you don't get on there, just press *6. So thank you very much, everybody. We're now calling the meeting to order, and we'll begin with a roll call. And I believe it's Christy is going to do that, please.
Mayor Winkler.
Here.
Mayor Jones.
Present.
Mayor Seaman.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Strawn,
Here.
Councilmember West,
Here.
Supervisor Fennel,
Here,
Councilmember Patino,
Here.
Kevin Tucker.
Here.
Thank you.
thank you, Christy. We have a full board. That's great. Now we're going to adjourn as the Hcog board and convene as the Policy Advisory Committee. The PAC convenes to include representation from Caltrans and the Humboldt Transit Authority, HTA, for items that are specific to transportation. At this time, we're going to open it up to public participation. This item is reserved for matters that are not on the agenda that may be presented to the public, over which the PAC has jurisdiction at some point in the future. Right now, as I look at my list of attendees, I only see participants. I don't know if we have anybody from the public wishing to speak. If there is someone in for the public, could you please go through that process to give us public comment? Do you see anything, Christy?
No, I do not.
Okay, I think we've given it enough time, and we will now go to approval of the meeting record of August 20th. And I hope everybody's had a look at that. And do I have any comments on that item or any corrections or anything like that?
I move we pass the minutes of the August meeting as delivered.
Thank you,
Second.
Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Patino. Any discussion? Any public comment? I will say that for the record, but I can state with a fair degree of accuracy that there's nobody at this point joining us as an attendee. But if you're watching on a computer or if you're watching on TV, you can call those numbers and press *9. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission and we'll do a roll call vote again on the meeting minutes from August 20th, please.
Hey, Mayor Winkler,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Seaman,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Strawn,
Yes.
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Supervisor Fennel,
Here,
Councilmember Patino,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes.
Thank you. Pass unanimously.
thank you very much, Christy. Appreciate that. And that will bring us to item number 5 on the agenda, which is the consent calendar. We have one item on there, Highway Infrastructure Program Programming Resolution 2020 and Resolution 2021. Anybody want to have any discussion about that item?
I move that we adopt the consent calendar as submitted.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilmember Winkler and Mayor Seaman. And I will again go out to the public. Still no sign of anybody. So I'm going to bring it back to the Commission Association, and then we'll take another roll call vote. Christy, we're keeping you busy here.
All right.
Thank you.
Mayor Winkler,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Seaman,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
thank you. Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Strawn,
Yes.
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Supervisor Fennel,
Yes.
Councilmember Patino,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, Chrissy. So now we're going on to first item for action, a PAC action actually, and this relates back to a discussion we had at our last meeting, the formation of an ad hoc committee, and this is to look at the potential for adding additional members. Are you going to present this, Marcella, or?
Una has the honor.
Thank you. Una, welcome.
Yes. Thank you. So this is a follow-up from last month when the ad hoc committee was created, and the ad hoc committee's directive is to help draft targets and performance measures that will then be in the regional transportation plan presented to the board to adopt in 2021. And the members on the ad hoc right now are Mayor Winkler and Councilmember Johnson and Mr. Kevin Tucker. In the interim, I did reach out to Mayor Seaman because she had been absent at the last meeting, and I did tell her what the board directed and that this would be a chance for additional members to volunteer for the ad hoc. And the ball's in your court, board.
Okay. Thank you so much, Una. And so back to the board, and I will go first to Susan, because Mayor Seaman, because you weren't here and everybody else talked about it, but you didn't get a chance. Would you like to be a part of that ad hoc committee?
So I did say that I do think I would be interested in being part of it. I asked the question though, is it going to affect a Brown Act? Because there are only 5 of us on this.
Well, okay, so I think we did have a bit of a discussion at that time. Please remind me, but I think that we discussed that there might not be 2 members from Arcata. I don't know, but at the same time, Councilmember Patino is representing the HTA, so I don't know how it would go down.
And then also Mr. Tucker is part of the PAC, and as is Mr. Patino. So that is
Oh, that's right.
technically, that is a different committee.
Yeah.
But also you would not have half of the quorum just yet. And also the ad hoc committee has not met yet. They decided to wait for this to see if there was going to be another member. And there's also the option that every meeting would be noticed and open to the public in a formal way. And I have had comments from CRTP. As you will remember, they submitted a letter with some proposed draft language, and they are very interested in participating. And that was also a question they had, if and when the public would be participating in the ad hoc committee, or if it would be waiting for the larger public participation. And I can, as staff, facilitate either process. My idea is that after the ad hoc and as the ad hoc works on drafting targets, I will be doing outreach to the public. So the language that does come to the board, it may be iterative, and in any case, you will get what I've heard from the public comment when you do deliberate about the draft language.
So I guess my only concern, I mean, the whole concept of an ad hoc is to get together with a task, get it completed, and off your plate. I'm always concerned about creating more standing committees. Is there a way that we could create a committee that had a specific goal, such as an ad hoc committee, and then retire it once that task is done.
Yes, absolutely. And if the board wanted to decide at what point of the draft this ad hoc committee's job was done, then that would work very nicely. And we're going to be working on this RTP update for over a year, so there'll be chances to have another ad hoc or just review things in a different way.
Okay. Well, I just realized that we didn't memorialize the Councilmember Patino's interest, but let me just ask Mayor Winkler and Councilmember Johnson for your thoughts on creating something, and Kevin, about creating a committee that is a standing committee or a partially standing committee that is subject to the Brown Act.
Well, I think that makes it more complicated as far as having to have formal minutes and public notices. So to me, that would be significantly more work for Hcog staff. So I would rather not do that if we can avoid it. I mean, if it's essential. The other question is having to do with how large a subcommittee becomes subject to the Brown Act, and it depends on what body, what sub entity of Hcog it's meeting under as to, I think, what a quorum would be my understanding. Have we determined what that is in this case?
Una?
That has not been determined. No, it wasn't included. But with Mr. Tucker on it, I think it should be the PAC. Yeah. And what they are working on is just to recommend something to the board. So that would be logical to me.
So if possible, I would like to include Mayor Seaman because she's expressed a strong interest in being part of this. And if in order to do that, we would have to have a standing committee, I think that would be worthwhile just to be able to include Mayor Seaman in this.
So what's the quorum?
I would rather not do that if we can avoid it, but if we need to, then do it so we can include Mayor Seaman.
So
what's the quorum of the PAC? Sorry.
5.
5.
Yes.
So we have Mayor Seaman, Kevin.
It now stands at 4 members if Mayor Seaman is included.
So that's not a Brown Act violation. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfectly legal.
Yeah, let's just do an ad hoc with 4. I think that probably meets what we were thinking about.
Great.
Okay, great. All righty. Okie doke. Well, that being the case, would anybody like to make a motion to memorial? Well, I guess let me open it up for public comment just in case somebody's out there. Oh, wow. I do have I have a number with a hand up. I don't know if this is a member of the public, but I'm going to welcome you to speak. Welcome. It's yes, it's a number ending in 5603.
Yeah, hi, that's me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Hi, this is Colin Fisk with the Coalition for Responsible Transportation Priorities. I just wanted to comment that, well, I guess first of all, just thank you again for setting up this ad hoc committee, and I think it'll really be an important improvement to the RTP to have some specific and measurable targets, particularly related to the climate crisis. And, as to the form of the committee, I just wanted to comment that I think an ad hoc committee, although not subject to the Brown Act, I don't know of any reason why they couldn't, invite participation from stakeholders should they desire to. And I would encourage, CRTP is obviously interested. I believe 350 Humboldt may also be interested. They've also commented on this issue. So I would encourage them to do that at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Colin. Any other comment from the public? I'm glad I realized that Colin was in the attendees. I don't see any further hands up. Sorry, everybody, I'm squinting here because I'm using a small monitor. So I've got to move things around.
So I want to go
Okay.
ahead and move to appoint Mayor Seaman to the ad hoc committee or subcommittee.
Second that.
So we have a motion and a second. I would like to, I know that we don't discuss that much comment, but I would like to offer some clarification there with what Colin brought up. Ad hoc committee can meet with as many people as they need to meet with. You know, it's just, it allows for a little bit more flexibility in movement, and definitely it would be important to meet with people who are voiced their interest in doing so. So just want to add that in there. So we have a motion and a second, and we've had public comment. So let's go to Christy for a roll call, please.
Okay, Mayor Winkler,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Seaman,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Strawn,
Yes.
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Supervisor Fennell,
Yes.
Councilmember Patino,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, Christy, and thank you very much to all four of you for stepping up, and we look forward to the fruits of your labor. We'll be hearing back from you pretty soon, I hope. So on to item number 7B, which is an update of the regional safe routes to school prioritization tool, and this comes to us from Una as well. Welcome back.
Yes. Thank you. So Hcog first approved the Safe Routes to School prioritization tool in 2012. It was kind of a first of its kind, at least in the rural communities, and it is used to learn more about our schools in the whole region and what their readiness is and their interest in doing active transportation projects under the Safe Routes to School program. And we have been methodically and periodically updating it. So after 2012, 2 years later, we worked with RCAA and updated the inventories, which means contacting the schools and asking them about information about kids biking and walking to school and parents interested in being champions for such things. And if they'd had events for International Walk to School Day and those kinds of things that show a level of interest for then going for grant funding if they had designs in mind. So then we did another update in 2016-17. We have not yet been able to update the inventories of all 108 schools, but we are continuing to put this in the OWP so that we can keep updating the inventories and keep this to be a very relevant, useful document. I do want to note that although it's a prioritization tool, the priority is not ranking what school is the most needy or most worthwhile. The prioritization is something completely different from that. It is the competitiveness of a school at that current point in time. How likely would they be to score high for very competitive funding? And mostly what we think about is the active transportation program, the statewide one, which is very competitive and is always oversubscribed because schools and cities and jurisdictions statewide, of course, all have a need and a desire for that kind of funding. So the 2020 version is the first time we've revamped the whole narrative part of it. So I've restructured it because it's not our first one anymore, and we have a little bit of a history to share now. So what we have now is a plan that is useful for both the people familiar with this kind of program and unfamiliar. For those unfamiliar with it, for example, if there's a new principal at a school and she wants to do something but doesn't know that her school has ever done anything, she could refer to this report and find out what other schools in the area have done, find out what kind of funding is available, and maybe get some ideas of what she could do at her school. She'll also find out about the Safe Routes to School Task Force, which actually was created after the 2012 project that Hcog hired RCAA to help us with. And then for people familiar with all of this, this hopefully will be a really good tool for them when they do decide to apply for a grant. And they can refer to this, the rankings, give some data about every school, and there'd be histories about past projects that have gotten funding. And then, of course, the report has quite a few resources that schools and public works departments and health departments can look to find out more about good practices for safe routes to school and active transportation and what kind of funds are available. So that, in a nutshell, is the update we have before you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Una. And let me just say, I really like the cover page. It's a Toddy Thomas. But you know, for the rest of the board, first of all, I just want to reflect it. Will this go to every school? Will they all have a copy of this?
No, we haven't done that before, but we could certainly give CDs to, or flash drives even, to everyone. It's always up on our website, and by request, we could print and bind the reports by request.
Okay, Barak, I'm just thinking that because a lot of times when people bring an issue to me, I'll say, you know, this might be something for safe routes to school, and they may not even have been thinking along those lines. Whereas if they have it there, it may just go, well, this could work for us. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But again, yeah, if you can do it by request, that's probably just as good.
Yeah, and we're trying to update the inventories every other year or every 3 years. So also that helps us keep in contact. You know, if people don't have a printed one, then hopefully they come on our website and get the most recent.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, good. Any questions or comments for Una on the Safe Routes to School prioritization guidelines?
Just going to say that I think she did an excellent job in making the narrative, and especially in the funding sources, because that's always a question people ask, is how are we going to get the money? And it explains it. And having used the old prioritization tool when I was a part of the TAC, and knowing how that went and the usefulness it had, this is even going to be better. And I also like the picture on the cover.
Yeah.
That was one of our first big Safe Routes to School projects that happened here in Fortuna.
I was looking for you in the picture, but I don't see that cowboy hat, so I don't think you're there.
It's the black one right above the windshield in the little red car.
Oh, there. Oh, yeah, I do see it now. Okay. Okay. Any other comments from the board? Yes, Paul, Councilmember Patino.
That's fine. I just noticed for me, the best quick reference out of this whole thing was the prioritization list.
Yeah.
And that would be, there's just a few pages. I mean, that would be something that every school should get a copy of. If they're on the list, they get a copy of the list and they see where they are.
Mhm,
You know, they don't need to read the whole 70 pages or, you know.
mhm.
I mean, it might interest them into reading how did they get that prioritization.
Mhm.
But the first thing they're going to want to know is where am I on that list?
Yeah.
And I think council members and community activists, they'd like to know that first also. And then, you know, they walk around and can decide for themselves how accurate is it, you know? So that's just a thought of mine.
Through the chair, may I respond? Oh,
Absolutely, please, Una. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll take you.
Yeah, so I love that idea. And if this is approved today, I will then work to send out announcements to all the schools. And it would be really nice, you know, to touch back with them because many of them have gotten calls through the inventory things. And I think that would, yeah, it would be a nice additional connection to make with them. And then on a slightly different note, I will also be working on making this more readable for people with vision impairment.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you, Una.
Thank you, Una. Councilmember Strawn.
Yeah, I would just like to say that we are in the process of ATP Safe Routes to School project right now in town. And I would just like to say that there was a disconnect in between Safe Routes to School, gathering information and coming to the city meetings, showing us the plan, getting the concept, what we were going to do as far as bike lanes, as far as sidewalks. City of Reedale has no school bus. Most of our kids walk to school. We have very few who ride bikes. But really, the ATP seemed to really lean towards the bicycle side and not so much the sidewalk pedestrian portion. And we just had a real breakdown from the meetings we had at City Council, at the school, and then when the actual contract came out, what it looked like was very different from what we talked about. So I just wanted to throw that in. We're still working on it. We've made changes through the process, but it was disappointing. In fact, we were even told that Safe Routes to School was like a thing of the past. You now have to go by the ATP guidelines. So it was kind of confusing. And I really felt like we spun our wheels a little in trying to stick to Safe Routes to School rules. And then it was different when it actually, the money came and it came down to rubber meets the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Strawn. Anybody else have comments or questions for Una? Okay, with that, I'll open it up for oops, I don't know what I did here. For comments from the public. I hope I'm still on.
You're still on.
Am I gone?
No, you're on. You're fine. But I don't see any calls coming.
Oh, okay, there.
There's no public comment.
No public comment. Okay, thank you. Okay, so with that, I'll bring it back to the board and welcome any further discussion or a motion.
I would move to recommend that the Hcog board approve the 2020 update of the Hcog regional state routes to school prioritization tool.
I'll second that.
Thank you both. Appreciate that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's go for another roll call vote, please.
Okay, Mayor Winkler,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Seaman, okay,
Aye.
thank you.
I didn't realize I was on mute.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
thank you. Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Strawn,
Yes.
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Supervisor Fennell,
Yes,
Councilmember Patino,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
thank you, passes unanimously.
thank you. All right then. Thank you again, Una. And now we go on to yet another item from Una, and this is the Hcog Mobility on Demand Strategic Development Plan final.
Thank you.
Back to you.
So last time the board saw this, you asked for some changes, and we were also still in the public comment period. So I've worked with the consultant, and the consultant has made the requested changes to the potential pilot projects. And I did a summary of the public engagement, and I put that in an appendices. So that is the completed final before you today. And we did get some written comments, and there are 3 letters in your staff report that show those written comments. And I will also include those as part of the record in the final. And I'll take any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Una. Any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none so far. Okay. Let's see, I'll just scroll down here. No, don't see any hands up. Okay. Any public comment on this item?
Do not have any public comment.
Oh, thank you, Debbie. All right, then let's go forward here. And again, this is the Mobility on Demand Strategic Development Plan final report. And I will entertain a motion for this action item.
I'll move to recommend that the Hcog board adopt the Hcog Mobility on Demand Strategic Development Plan.
Second.
We got a motion and a second, and we'll go to a roll call vote.
Mayor Winkler,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Seaman,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith, Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
thank you. Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Strawn,
Yes.
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Supervisor Fennell,
Yes,
Councilmember Patino,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
thank you, passes unanimously.
thank you very much, Christy. So now we will reconvene as the Hcog board, and the requested action by motion is to approve the PAC recommendations that we just voted on.
I will. Oh, you looking for that? I'll move to reconvene as the Hcog board and approve PAC recommendations.
I'll
Second.
second it.
We've got all sorts of seconds happening there. Thank you. And we'll go for another roll call.
Okay, Mayor Winkler,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Seaman,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith, I'm sorry, Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Strawn,
Yes.
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Supervisor Fennell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. And on to item number 8A, and this comes to us from Debbie, our Fiscal Administrative Officer. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you.
And this is the revised Hcog personnel policies and procedures and Calpers Public Employees Medical Health Care Act. A lot of work into that. Welcome,
Thank
Debbie.
you. So the item being brought before the board tonight is, as Supervisor Fennell said, the Public Employees Healthcare Act with Calpers. It needs to be updated. And also before the board is consideration to revise the personnel policies. In 2000, Hcog entered into an agreement with Calpers, enrolling the employees in the medical program for the employees and the retirees. At the time of that adoption, the board chose an unequal method for employees and retirees. And at that time, it was with the agreement that the increase would happen on a yearly basis until the retirees and the employees became equal. That is going to happen in January of 2021. Because it is going to become equal, there is a need to update the resolution so that we have an equal contribution resolution agreement with Calpers. Staff did meet with the board's executive committee and with legal counsel to discuss those options that are before us. And the three different options that the executive committee discussed is outlined in your staff report. The first one is to maintain the current benefit level at 100% for both the employee plus one dependent. The second option that they talked about was to adopt an equal contribution resolution with a set contribution for both the employee and the retiree. And if the board chose to do that, you can set that dollar amount at any dollar amount you would like to, as long as it is higher or at or higher than the public employee statutory minimum requirement. The third option was for the board to adopt the equal contribution at the minimum contribution, and with that, contribute the amount needed to cover the annual cost of healthcare for future active employees at 100%, and a contribution of 33% towards one dependent. The executive committee did discuss all three options, and their recommendation, as well as legal counsel and staff, was for the board to consider recommendation number 3 or option number 3. If the board does decide to go with that option, there is a need to update the personnel policies as well. And those policies will be updated to include language that was provided by legal counsel, and that has been also provided in your staff report. So at this time, I can turn it back over to the executive committee for them to add anything that they would like to regarding those meetings that we had.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Mike, you want to give a little input on that, please?
It's captured very well in the staff report. It was not a lightly taken meeting and decisions that had to be made, because fiscally and health-wise and employment-wise, it covered each one of the areas. And we did, as you can read in the staff report, adopt a formula covering the employee and a portion of the employee plus one's health care. And going forward, that is the recommendation that the executive committee has and is bringing to the board. This will affect people hired after January 1st, 2021, the new executive director and the new planner position. And it was interesting. I'll say that much.
It is interesting.
A lot
Because
of, go ahead.
No, go on, John. Mike, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that there's so many different ramifications in there. I mean, legally, fiscally, getting the correct quality employee, because that is one of the items that is looked at when you're making a hiring decision, when the future employee is looking to see if they would like to be employed in this organization. So we tried to encompass all of those things, and this is what we came to a decision in and bring it to the board.
Thank you. And I think that Councilmember Johnson covered it extremely well. We did take it apart bit by bit, looked at each set of combinations and how we might move forward from the system that we have right now. And this just seemed to be, in our minds, the one we could afford, and it would also be a good, a good situation for the future. And so welcome everybody's thoughts on this. And as you said, as Debbie pointed out, we do actually have two other options, but I think that the executive committee would want to hear some pretty clear arguments for either one of those if we were to move forward. And very welcome, I'm very, very ready to hear those arguments. But okay, anybody have any thoughts on this this item? Wow. Okay. Let me ask you this then. Pretty quiet. So let me just say this. Let me do a little bit of a straw vote on what your feelings are about option 3. Before we go forward, unless there's already everybody likes option 3. So let's start. I'm just going to go by my screen. Mayor Jones?
Yes, I'm in favor of option 3. I feel like an equal contribution from the staff and Hcog seems like a good halfway point. And it seems that staff is agreeable to this as well as the others that worked on it. So I'm completely in agreement with option 3.
Wonderful. Mayor Winkler?
What I'm always concerned about is long-term costs. So I don't know if we have had, I don't know if I saw that in the staff report, but among the 3 options, what would best control long-term costs to the organization? I don't know if we've done that analysis. I would be comfortable with option 3, but I would like to hear feedback on that if that has been analyzed.
Debbie, can you help us with that?
I can. So when the staff met with the executive committee, we did have a table, and unfortunately I don't have that right in front of me, but option 3 was the fiscally best option for Hcog to take. Right now, Hcog pays 100% of health insurance for the employee and the retiree. And for those vested employees that are already under that agreement, that will stand. And so for future employees, they'll get 100% of their insurance paid and only 33%, which is going to be a pretty big savings for Hcog for future. And then when those employees retire, they will only receive the PEMCA minimum statutory requirement towards their health insurance. And so in the long term, as the current employees retire and expire, the savings will be, significant to the agency.
So in terms of long-term cost, did you do a comparison among the three options as far as long-term cost to the organizations? To the organization, I mean?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so you're saying that among the three options, that option 3 would best control long-term costs?
Well, the other option that they didn't really consider at all was for the agency not to pay any health insurance except for the minimum requirement. But they discussed that a little bit, but decided that in order to get good employees, that the agencies should, and because the majority of your cities pay health insurance for their employees, that Hcog should continue to go along that same route.
That makes sense, because you need to be fair and you need to be competitive.
That's exactly right. That's what we looked at. Thank you, Mayor Winkler and Mayor Seaman.
I always think it's so sad that every year, with whichever organization you're with, you have to go through these difficult decisions. I think it's always important to try. I think that if the staff feels like this is a good recommendation, it's probably the right one. I mean, I can't find one that would be better. It's just hard when you have to cut from 100% to, sharing the cost. It's not the wrong decision. It's a shame that that's the way we're always having to work.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
But overall, I agree. I agree with the decision, and I'm sorry that we had to make it. That's it.
For clarification,
It's
I
not
just
that
want to be
bad.
open and transparent. It's not going to affect the current employees. Right now, the Hcog employs 4 employees that will stick with what were vested employees.
Okay.
And so this is going to affect future employees.
Yeah, I know. That's okay.
Just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah, it was clear. It's
Okay.
just the people who are coming into the workforce now don't have as good options as people who have in the past.
It changes year to year, let me tell you. I've seen it myself.
And it gets
so-
harder from year to year. I mean, the
Yeah.
benefits get less and less compared to what they used to be.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's
And-
an old person invested.
Well, we should just be, well, I'm going a little too far with my opinion, but I think we should be happy that we actually still have something like this, to tell you the truth. I mean, the way things are going. But anyway, I'm not revealing my cards. Councilmember Strong.
Yeah, I think option 3 does look best. It is sad that we have to go from 100 to a third, but I'm sure you guys took everything into consideration. Thank you for your hard work. I agree with option 3.
Thank you. Councilmember West.
After spending many years watching what's happened with education and how that's changed, actually, I'm very impressed with this. So I thought 3 by far was the best when I looked at it. So I appreciate what you've done. And I think 3 is a good option.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
I think that option 3 is the best.
Thank you. And Councilmember Patino. Oh, actually, you're the.
I'm
Yeah,
not
sorry.
in part of this. Yeah, thank you.
I'm sure. Okay. Well, back to Debbie. I just like to do that sometimes when we're making this kind of a decision, just to get a sense, we don't just jump on something because the work's been done. And I do appreciate the conversation that we had. to get to this point, and then of course appreciate all the work that the staff's put in. So with that, I would entertain a motion, and we have a couple of resolutions attached to this.
I'll go ahead and move to adopt Resolution 2018, revising HCOG's personnel policies and procedures to include tiered healthcare benefits for employees and retirees of January 1st, 2021. And do you want me to do both of them together?
We had just had this question at the board the other day, and I'm not oh no, at LAFCO. Let's just do them one at a time, please. I know it's important.
I will end there.
Okay. Okay, so with that, we have a motion to adopt.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much, Councilmember West. So we have a motion again to adopt Resolution 2018, and we'll do a roll call vote. And Christy will do that, please.
All right. Mayor Winkler,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Seaman,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Strawn,
Yes.
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Supervisor Fennell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, Christy. Don't go far. We've got another one for you, I think. And I'll go back to Mayor Seaman because she actually was thinking of doing both at the same time. So
Okay. I don't want to hog the time, but happy to do it. And adopt Resolution 2019, fixing the employer contribution under the Public Employees Medical Healthcare Act, Hcog, at an equal amount for employees and annuitants, and direct staff to establish a health savings or reimbursement account to provide contributions in the name of the employees and the annuitants hired on or before January 1st, 2021, in an amount equal to the difference between Hcog's Hcog statutory minimum contribution is approved in Resolution 2018. Forgive all of my mispronunciations.
good.
I'll second that one.
Thank you for that.
Do we have
And
public comment? on
public
this?
comment on this item?
There is no public comment.
Thank you, Christy. Okay, let's go again with another roll call vote, please.
Okay, Mayor Winkler,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Seaman,
Sorry, aye.
okay, Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Strawn,
Yes.
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Supervisor Fennell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, Christy. And thanks again for going through all of that. It's an important step, fiscally responsible as well. So let's go on to item number 9. That's the Hcog staff and PAC member reports. And it is reserved for matters that members of the PAC and staff may wish to present. I'll start with Caltrans report on the 101 corridor project. And Kevin, if you would please. Finally get to speak, huh?
Yeah, so the construction is scheduled to begin at the Samoa mitigation site starting next week, September 21st. Design is progressing with the Indianola undercrossing, and the current target design completion date is January 15th that they're working on right now. Jeff Pimentel, the project manager, will be working with Hcog staff and Caltrans programming staff to prepare a CTC book item to credit Hcog the RIP shares due to the low bid savings that came from the Samoa mitigation construction contract. This book item is targeted for the December CTC meeting.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions for Kevin on this item? Okay. Thank you for all your work. Any public comment on this item? See any there, Christy?
No, there's no
think
public
so.
comment.
Okay, great. Thank you. Not great, but thank you for your help. And so that takes us on to another report from Caltrans, and this is on the last chance grade. Back to you, Kevin.
Yeah, so last chance grade, I've mentioned in the past, the geotechnical drilling that's been taking place. The phase 3 is on schedule, and that's supposed to start next week. The project team is engaging with various working groups to screen the different alternatives. That's kind of the next step in the process. And the goal is to narrow down the list of alternatives to 3 or 4, focusing on ones that are most feasible and reasonable. And they're hoping to complete that early sometime next year so they can move on to the full list of environmental engineering studies required for the draft environmental document. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions or comments? Yes, Mayor Seaman?
So you're trying to narrow it down to 3 or 4 choices in the future. That's the goal, was that date that you gave away in the future. Or are you doing that now so that you can have one choice by, I can't remember what the
when
was you
you're,
said.
yeah, so it's narrowing it down to 2, 3, or 4. And so that's taking place now. And it's with the environmental document phase, you do have to have a certain number of alternatives. So that's, the 3 or 4 meets those guidelines. But in order, with a project of this size, you don't want to study things that aren't necessary. So if we can eliminate some sections of routes or some of the alternatives, that helps with saving cost and time for the overall project.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is Marcella. At one time, I believe there were 7 or 8 alternatives with some A's and B's. So
That's right.
you have to herd it in somehow. And the public participation aspect of the project has been really spectacular. Caltrans District 1 gave a presentation at the California Transportation Commission meeting last month. That was very informative. And I can find that and the timestamp and send that to the board so you can take a look at that as well.
Okay, I was just imagining that you would go down to a final decision, or like a final one. So 3 or 4 is, that was just surprising. Okay.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up, Marcella. You've been very quiet today, but yeah, I think that the way that Caltrans gave people an opportunity to look at all of that and to be very active in public participation was very, very helpful. And it really, I think aspects of it were pretty unknown to everybody, even engineers and everything. It's a huge issue. So getting down to that point is pretty good. So really appreciate it. Any further comments? No? Okay, well, thank you very much, Kevin. And I don't see any public comment either. Any other items from staff or members?
Well, I'll just say that we did not get our statistics in time for the mailing for the Eureka Police Department on the corridor, the safety corridor. So we'll report that next week. And then just the other thing I want to say is that Una, Debbie, and Christy are such an awesome staff that maybe you don't need me for the next 3 months. They did an excellent,
So,
nice sitting back.
What the way I'm seeing this, Marcella, is you're giving a gentle, help for the
Yeah, I like
transition,
it.
and I appreciate it. I do. I really do. It and we can see you there. But thank you very much, and thank you, of course, to Debbie and Christy and Una for their work, taking on all of that, and yours too. I know you're working there, so. Again, thank you so much, everybody. No further comments or input, and we will say we are adjourned. And thank you all for joining us again this evening. Drive safe and
Bye, everyone.
breathe clear.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.